It is the WMAY morning news feed. I'm Greg Bishop. Let's talk about how to address homelessness. It's something that we hear a lot about from city council members, from you out there listening, and the things that you encounter when you're out on the streets, even in your car. You see people asking for assistance on corners, and we've got, of course, a variety of different agencies that are helping out with all of this. And one of the coordinators helping to try to connect all of these agencies together, Josh Sabo, he joins us with the Heartland Continuum of Care. Josh, thanks for taking time with us in studio. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we've heard a lot of the conversations at the city council chambers about how to address this. We've seen good ideas in the past surface, a lot of support, but enough opposition to be able to kill those plans, essentially. So where are we at right now in trying to get wraparound services, addressing those who can't go to high barrier shelters, addressing those who just need a leg up? Give us kind of, I guess, a status update of where we're at with addressing homelessness.
Sure. Yeah. As you said, there have been a lot of great things and opportunities that have popped up. And as a community, we've had a hard time, really bringing those to a place where they can actually be of service to people experiencing homelessness. And our system to address homelessness, it's not functioning as well as our community and a person experiencing homelessness would want it to. And so there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the ways that we're really trying to bring clarity and transparency around that is through a community-wide strategic planning process, which has started a few months ago. And so we're getting that process going, and it's beginning to identify some of what projects that have popped up in the past have also tried to identify around need. As a community, we don't have enough housing opportunities and supportive services to help the number of people experiencing homelessness. And that leads to people who are unsheltered. It leads to probably more people panhandling and a lot of things that as a community, we hear it all the time too, whether it's council members or just community members. We want to do better as a community. And so we're hopeful that this process helps us do that.
There are certainly those who find themselves in unfortunate circumstances, either marital problems, divorce, or they lose their job, or there's a whole host of things that can cause somebody to be homeless, and they're looking for services, right? But then you have some, and we saw this, I think, with Tent City, where they don't really want the services, or they don't feel that they need the services. How do you address those individuals who are experiencing homelessness, if not by some of their own choices of not wanting to get that help?
Yeah, as you alluded to, every story is so unique, of a person that is in that situation. And one of the things that I think our agencies do incredibly well is building those, person by person relationships to, for a person who is unhoused, there's a variety of reasons that could lead to that. Sometimes there's trauma, sometimes there's mistrust, sometimes they were involved in a program and it didn't go well. And so
sometimes there's mental health issues.
Mental health, yeah, all those things are important factors that our agencies are working hard to address. And sometimes it takes time, really, to build that trust, to find the right day that a person is willing to enter a service. And then the other part is that the service is available, right? So we spend a lot of time going out and talking to people about housing and really helping to move them in that direction. But as a community, we lack those resources to such a degree that creates a really hard dynamic for our outreach workers.
Josh Sabo joins us. He is the coordinator for the Heartland Continuum of Care, talking about how to address homelessness in Springfield. You've got some dates that people need to keep in mind. Of course, we like having awareness type weeks or months as a way to kind of highlight some of the things that are being done. Tell us about the Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is.
Right, November 13th through 21st. Over the last few years, we've really used that opportunity for community education. And so last year we did a series of Facebook Live conversations about different things that were taking place in our community. This year we're really focusing on some community summits that will help to hopefully involve the community in the strategic planning process. The summits, there's going to be 4 of them. One's going to be virtual on November 15th, and then there'll be 3 in-person summits on November 16th, spread out throughout the day. And the goal is really, we've been working with partners to again, on the strategic planning process, they've dug into our community data. They've begun to do focus groups with people who are experiencing homelessness, agency providers, community members. And so they're going to be talking about what they're seeing in terms of the local data And they're also going to be talking about here are best practice. Here are things that are working elsewhere, and then they're going to provide space for the community to really talk about as we really develop the goals for what this process will accomplish. What do you think needs to be in there? What do you really want to make sure we address?
How do we, though, at the same time, hear of some of the concerns that we've heard in the past about community members not wanting a shelter on their side of town and wanting to see it maybe more centralized or maybe even on the west side of town, for instance? How do we
Sure.
hear those concerns but implement some of that and how to address all this moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to be able to hear that and to give people power to say this is what we want in our community. And then I think, part of what we want to do as a continuum and as a community is to really have that conversation in a proactive way, understanding that generally across the country, shelters and often services to address homelessness are often fault. And so we need to really explain and do the best we can to paint a picture of what will be provided and create as much uh, comfort, acceptance as we can. But at the end of the day, really to move forward with the things that we need to move forward with, we really need that durable community consensus to get some of these projects going.
Josh, there's a lot of money involved here as well. I think that ARPA, some of the dollars are going to be used for this here locally. How do we ensure that what we're doing isn't going to um, promulgate the problem,
Right.
right? To where we actually have incentives for individuals to become more responsible for their own housing instead of just giving it to them,
Sure.
right? Because if you just give them something, then they're going to expect that. How do we, the whole teach a man to fish instead of just giving them a fish type of
Sure,
thing?
sure. Yeah, I think the key here are best practices. We've seen programs, particularly, you'll hear us speak a lot about rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. Those programs have proven incredibly effective following a housing first approach across the country. They have led to people being in the home in a sustainable way, and they work, frankly. And so, I think as we look at how to use these funds in the most impactful way, we have to look at what's working elsewhere. What are best practices? And what we find is that often what's accomplished over time, it's not automatic. It takes some time, depending on a person's experience. But we can help people get to a place where they can thrive and be stable in housing.
How does that, though, how do you impact their behavior, right?
Sure.
Is it job programs or, group discussions or, support type groups? How do we foster that behavior to help people? I know it's a term or a phrase not a lot of people hear too much anymore, but pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, all of those things are a part of that. In terms of how HUD measures how our community is doing, they're measuring things like, are we helping a person increase their income through employment? Are we helping them connect to mainstream services? And then, those kind of relational dynamics, community, that's a space where our faith communities and where other community partners can play a key role. But then also agencies do an incredible job. The agencies, I know of Helping Hands that has, this meeting once a week for people to come in who are housed, and they have these conversations about, you know, how's it going? That creates that space for community that really helps a person have that sustainability too. So there's all kinds of ways of doing it, and our agencies, I think, do a fantastic job of it. I think one of the key challenges is, though, it's hard to keep doing that if we don't have those housing resources to get people into.
We're talking with Josh Sabo. He is the coordinator for the Heartland Continuum of Care here in Springfield, working to collaborate with all the different agencies addressing people who are experiencing homelessness. And of course, Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is November 13th through the 21st. November 15th, there's going to be a virtual conference of sorts to talk about some of these issues, and then several in-person meetings on November 16th. We'll talk about how people can get the information on where those are going to be held. But Josh, talk a bit about the community ambassadors that you're looking for, people who want to help and spread awareness about this. Tell us about that.
Sure. We've had this great community education team that's been working to try to figure out how do we best let the community know about what's happening and how we can move forward. And so they've come up with this concept for an hour-long online training, so that any person who might say, well, I don't know what the continuum is, I don't know what the system to address homelessness looks like or how it works, it would be an opportunity for them to engage on their own time and learn some about how we are structuring these services in our program to move forward and actually solve homelessness. And so we'll be launching that at the end of Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. And if people want to be tuned into that, there's two key ways. One is to go to our website, heartlandcontinuum.com. There's a place there where you can join our newsletter, our general membership newsletter. You'll get all the updates from us. Additionally, for the strategic planning process, there's a page there and on our Facebook page as well, where people can put in their email address and stay up to date on all of those updates.
And I take it they can also find the details about where the in-person events are going to be?
Right. Yep. Once you sign up for your email address, you'll get a link to RSVP and be a part of those summits.
Give us that website one more time.
heartlandcontinuum.com and then facebook.com/Heartland Continuum of Care.
Great. Josh Sabo, he is the coordinator for the Heartland Continuum of Care, joining us here on the WMAY Morning News Feed. Josh, let's have another conversation soon, all right? Because this is not something that's going to go away overnight.
Sure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. It is the WMAY Morning News Feed, now 7:21, your forecast. The high of 69 today. Can you believe that?